What is it with all of the portraying of the underworld as a bureaucracy I come across so much lately? First Hades, with the god of the dead himself essentially running the biggest paper-pushing organization this side of Olympus, and just recently with the Steam Halloween sale I bought Death and Taxes, which, you know, kind of speaks for itself. And now this one, Afterparty, where the whole reason you can freely roam around hell for a night in the first place simply is that the demons have regular 9 to 6 jobs and can't be bothered to even do a minute of overtime, which is so relatable. And maybe that's why, because it is so relatable. If Satan himself were to stuff every one of my orifices with every type of unthinkably gross, unspeakably vile substance, I'd be flattered he put in the effort himself. Hell wouldn't be so bad, since it would basically be an eternal VIP ride of damnation. But with the underworld being portrayed as a soulless, uncaring, bureaucratic and depressive shithole, this makes it all the more believable and makes it a lot easier to imagine what actual hell really could be like. But I went off on a tangent a bit, since the humans in Afterparty are actually tortured in a classical manner. No whips, breaking bones, melting off faces with boiling lava, forcibly watching TikTok videos, you know the drill. Though Afterparty launched quite recently on Steam, the 22nd of October 2020, it was released on other platforms about a year ago. It was one of those 1-year epic exclusivity deals, I assume, but I still was excited when I saw the Steam page nevertheless, since the studio behind the game are the ones who made Oxenfree, which was a kind of under-the-radar indie darling in 2016, but an amazingly fresh take on narrative game design, and quite an experience I very much enjoyed back in the day. Afterparty itself looks decent, though runs quite hot. The game is made with the Unity engine, so this could explain this, especially since the technical team behind the game is surprisingly small as well. I've seen other people complain about bugs and low frame rates as well, so this definitely looks like some fundamental problem here. I've had some bugs myself, though no game-breaking ones as of yet, just minor stuff like character models clipping or getting stuck, or Satan's cape clipping into itself every time he walks, which, now that I really think about it, could really have been fixed in the year it's been out already. But like I said, small technical team here, and I assume they're busy working on their next title, so not a lot to do about it. But I'm still gonna mention it, of course. The environments are nice, but some of them feel a bit off. Since the camera is locked at the same perspective point, some textures come very close to the camera and are visibly low quality. Lots of areas are just pretty empty as well. Not that big of a deal, but if there's no dialogue along the way, it can become pretty noticeable. All of this, combined with the sometimes pretty long loading screens, can make the game feel a bit slow at times, since there's not a lot of action going on either way. I was also a bit disappointed that the giant demon at the start of the game in the background never gets reincorporated or anything. Sure, cool, big, imposing demonic constructions are seen here and there in the background, like the Gate of Hell and the Fallen Cathedral or whatever, but the giant demon and the scales of Osiris at the beginning of the game stand apart in my mind as being a bit more special, or at least receiving a bit more attention. Since the game is narratively driven, it can be somewhat of a slow burn, I suppose. Not a lot of gamers are used to or have the patience to sit through an entire game of essentially just conversations. The dialogue and the writing itself is overall great though, with funny quips and some dark, realistic, philosophical shit strewn in here and there. The way the demons are portrayed in this setting is also very interesting, and as far as I can tell, practically all of the voice work is very good as well. Only like 2 instances come to mind when it was noticeably bad. One minor character with 2 lines sounds noticeably off.
Milo? Lola?
No.
Yeah, it's you. Your immediate presence is requested.
And Lola, one of the main characters, has this ridiculous line around the beginning of the game as well.
I'm getting some level of emotional control, at least.
Oh my god, Milo, we're dead. We're fucking dead, and we are in hell.
Technical audio-wise, I kind of feel some things a bit off here. I barely have any knowledge of audio in general, so don't take my word for this. But when a character at the rightmost of the screen is talking, it's like I only hear it in the right ear of my headphones, which gets annoying very quickly. And since this usually happens while characters are walking, there's no way to stand more centered or something to fix this. This could be a specific issue to me, of course, because the headset I use is like 7.1 in virtual surround or whatever. And quality-wise, almost all the audio is very good. There's like one hiccup here or there, like with the voice work. Music is decent, and there's no real sound effects to speak of, aside from the gulping down of deadly amounts of alcohol, so it's all pretty okay. Again, this isn't my forte though, so I could be wrong on some accounts in the audio domain here. The story/plot as a whole is not that great or interesting, as it's quite predictable. The way Satan is portrayed I really like and all, as well as just the demons in general, like I said, but it stays pretty surface level for the two main characters you play as, I suppose. Milo and Lola, an Asian guy who has family issues, social anxiety, low self-esteem but still dyes his hair pink, and an African-American girl who also has family issues, cares a lot about social issues, but can't make friends despite still wanting to be accepted by her peers. All of this is drip-fed to you through the conversations they have with each other, organically bringing up these things while talking about relevant stuff, or just while getting shit-faced, since they are supposed to be lifelong friends after all. The main goal of the story here is to out-drink Satan to get back to Earth by, using some kind of loophole or whatever, since both Lola and Milo feel they have died too young and were brought to hell unfairly because they don't think of themselves as being bad people. As a result of you being in hell, you get assigned a personal demon who tortures you along the way in interesting manners and serves as a way of recounting what choices you made and what mistakes were made along the way. This is a cool and organic way to do this, instead of the 69% of other players made this choice spiel that games like Life is Strange do after a chapter. But the main plot here just stays get out of hell. There's no change of heart or any acceptance of the characters about their fate. There's no reason or opportunity to go out of your way to find out a lot about this place either. And I don't even think Milo and Lola ever thought about why they ended up in hell in the first place, at least in depth. I think it's mentioned like once or twice, but very surface level. There are some minor secondary conversations happening in the background most of the time, however, so the world itself feels real enough to be sure, even without you being able to explore a lot of it. But this setting could very well use a more freeform way of exploring and talking to demons to flesh out the world even more. It's about the journey, not the destination here. While alcohol and drinking gets marketed heavily for the game, like in the trailer and the title of the game itself and whatnot, in actuality it isn't a huge part of the game, at least for your characters. Aside from the drinking minigames you have to play to progress the story, you don't actually have to touch a drop of the good stuff yourself. That would be a shame though, because there are tens of different alcoholic drinks, each with a different hellish theme and personality assigned to them, allowing you to sip from your drink during a conversation and getting a drink-specific extra dialogue option aside from the standard 2. All of this is explained very clearly in the game itself, teetering on the edge of heavy-handed even. The alcohol influencing what choices you have is a cool system. In reality, if you drink alcohol, you have more options in life as well, but has a lot of untapped potential, I feel. If you down like 4 different drinks in 10 seconds, I mean it's longer than 10 seconds because it takes ages for the bartender to even make your drink in the first place, but that aside, it doesn't make you throw up or anything, and perhaps mixing different drinks could produce different results. I do realize this of course would take a ton more work, but this system is at least a very interesting baseline. The only time I actually had to drink during my first playthrough, aside from the minigames, was to get drunk enough to do a crazy jump, stage dive kind of deal, with Lola actually communicating this as well, so you wouldn't get lost if you didn't have a drink in your hand. There's always an indicator during a conversation so you know when you should drink, since the effect of giving you an extra dialogue choice fades away pretty quickly, which is of course a good thing. This dialogue system of course has some inspiration in the previous game of the studio, Oxenfree, which was a very good dialogue-driven teenage natural mystery story. Oxenfree didn't really have a super unique mechanic like the drinking here, so it's good to see the studio try something new. The way the dialogue options pop up during a conversation, instead of the conversation just grinding to a halt every time you get to a choice in the dialogue, like in, every RPG ever, feels as natural as it did in Oxenfree, and is usually very smooth. Obviously, there are a lot of choices to be made throughout your playthrough, be it in conversations or in the bigger picture, choosing which way to go about achieving certain objectives, which I won't spoil here, but there are moments I didn't even realize I was making an actual choice, which is a credit to the game for sure. An issue I have is that the I guess you could say, filler dialogue, you know, the stuff the characters talk about while walking, isn't timed very well with the actual distance you have to walk. A great example is at the beginning of the game. When you talk to Sam after you get processed, she starts talking a bit about stuff like reincarnation and what religions were right and whatnot, but if you just walk straight to her cab, the conversation just cuts off very abruptly because it's not timed correctly. I assume the game just wants you to wait a little bit before you start walking, but it's just very strange. And this, combined with the technical issues strewn around, make it feel like a bit of an unpolished game is all. The main star here, being the dialogue and writing, are all done very well. It's just that the vessel of the game itself feels lacking sometimes. The minigames are pretty hard though, you know, the actual gameplay aspect here. Jesus Christ, they are hard. Truly the Dark Souls of minigames over here. They just pop up as well. It's like, okay, time to play some beer pong. And bam, you're doing it. You're in the game. And sure, there's like tutorial control messages showing you what buttons you have to press, but still. The beer pong one is the least offensive in this regard, because at least you have time to adjust to your new situation. For the dancing and the stacking minigames, you are instantly losing if you don't have the instant neuro activation to actually, you know, get into the game. Good luck trying to get those perfect minigame achievements without like saves coming as well, because there's no option to actually practice or anything. The game is relatively short. One playthrough for me took about 5 hours. The game does nudge you in an extra playthrough through some funny fourth wall breaks, and the game in general is pretty funny as well, as I mentioned before. This comes of course as no surprise, since it's set in literal hell. You know, all stand-up comedians are going to hell for sure. Lots of swearing here and all, but not going over the top either with the swearing, which is an easy trap to fall into. All in all, if you liked Oxenfree, I'd definitely play this one. If you haven't played Oxenfree yet, Afterparty sure is good. You know, I would rate it like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 maybe, something along those lines. But in my mind, and as far as my memory serves me at least, because I haven't played Oxenfree in a while, I did have a better time with it. I'd still get Afterparty on sale nonetheless, you know, like 20% off or something. I got it at 20% off and I didn't feel like my money was wasted or anything. That's just my opinion, of course. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.